E3 has once again come and gone, folks, providing us with some kick-ass games to be looking out for in the future. We got to see returning franchises make their comebacks, new IPs look to be stirring things up, and virtual reality opened the door for even more wondrous places. But which one stood out from the rest? Well, here's a quick list of those that I felt left a big impression on me. And just to clarify, I'm coming off this as a viewer, not as someone who actually got to play the games there. Lucky bastards. Here are my top 10 games of E3 2016. So it seems yet again we're about to walk into another bloodbath this holiday season as three popular shooter franchises go head to head to claim the crown of FPS King. And while Call of Duty did look pretty insane and Battlefield 1 looked visually stunning, I went with the one that made me want to play it the most, that being Titanfall 2. As someone who is still a ways off from getting an Xbox One and is not the most avid PC player of today's games, I'm happy to know that the doors of Titanfall have opened up a bit for us all. But of course it's not just the audience that's expanding, as Respawn has taken note of fans' requests and chosen to build a story surrounding the Titanfall universe that seems to dive deeper into the bond between pilot and machine. The multiplayer also looks to bring even more fluidity with the inclusion of grappling hooks and what seems to be much more larger maps for even more Titan vs Titan battles. With any luck, I look forward to seeing more of Titanfall 2 this holiday season. Before I get into Mafia 3, you should know that I've never played neither the first nor the second games in the series, and to be honest, that's really been because of choice, not bad luck. With that being said, Mafia 3 has really awakened something in me in how I managed to appreciate the time period and locale they've picked this time around. The thing is about gangster movies that while I do enjoy watching them, I don't think I'd like to play as them unless they had some sort of strong motivation behind them. And when it comes to it here, I guess I'd take a tale of revenge over a rags to riches story any day. The city of New Bordeaux looks to really bring the late 60s era of New Orleans to life, with its cars, bright lights, music, swampy outback, and the lot. Hard to say if this will step outside of GTA Shadow, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Last year, Sony brought with them a heap of surprises, and one that turned a few heads was their new action RPG by Guerrilla Games titled Horizon Zero Dawn. For many of us, I'm sure, there were lots of things to get hyped up about. The post-apocalyptic setting, along with a choice of multiple arrows and types of gadgets. Oh, until we mention you get to fight robot versions of prehistoric beasts, that is awesome. Skip to 1 year later and we got our second look with the inclusion of missions, crafting, and even beast taming. Speaking of missions, am I the only one who's getting a Witcher 3 vibe from this game? Well, whatever it is in the end, one thing is certain: fighting robotic dinosaurs kicks ass. Enough said. Zombies, zombies, zombies. We just can't seem to be done with them, can we? It's almost like just when you think they're good and buried, they spring up once again. And this wasn't much different, with at least 3 and potentially 4 zombie games being announced this year. And the one that caught my eye the most was Sony Bend's new game, Days Gone. The thing about zombies is that while they're still fun, they've kind of slipped on the fear factor for me a bit. Now if you'd say have a few hundred of them charging right at me, breaking through whatever obstacle I put in the way, you'll probably have me sweating under the collar in no time. But it's not just that, the fact they refuse to let you go really speaks to how exhausting it can be to probably walk away from them in one piece. Now, like many E3 demos, I want to believe this wasn't just someone's vision of what could be, and instead do as much as they can to really bring this amount of scale and terror throughout the entire game. Maybe I'm fooling myself, but I can dream, can't I? Dishonored 1 became a surprise hit that really managed to immerse us in a world of filth, depravity and death, and as the player we could choose to save the city and its people, or condemn them to their fate. This time around we not only return as once shamed bodyguard Corvo Attano, but also as Empress Emily Cadwin as well. When the throne is taken once again, both must flee to the city of Carnassia to find some way of reclaiming their city using the power of the Outsider. Unlike Dunwald, Carnassia is shown to be a lot more technically advanced civilization, with wind turbines replacing whale oil and mechanical security bots patrolling around. Other neat inclusions are more powers added, such as pulling enemies towards you, linking enemies' lives together, and even creeping up on foes using the new Shadow Walk ability. We seem to get a few mind-bending missions this time, like one we have to jump through points in time to move through an abandoned manor. While the game might not seem like it's taken any big leaps since the last time, I still look forward to exploring this world and assassinating enemies in the most creative ways imaginable. Well, Microsoft did bring out a lot of varied games this year. Not many wowed me as much as Rare's new multiplayer pirate game, Sea of Thieves. For many of us, I'm sure, we've all wanted that quintessential pirate experience, and while games like Assassin's Creed 4 and Sid Meier's Pirates are more grounded, Sea of Thieves looks to really show us the joys of just hopping in a ship with a bunch of mates and partaking in all sorts of pirate activities, from searching for buried treasure, fighting off cursed pirates, and battling out seed monsters. Whether this game will come with its own story or employ some sort of crafting or customization is hard to say, but everything here just lives and breathes this epic pirate adventure we've wanted. It looks to be a nice comeback for Rare, and I hope to see more of this game in the future. What's that? A Spider-Man game being worked on by Insomniac Games? Well, I never thought I'd see the day. If Batman has shown us one thing, is that to be an awesome superhero game, you need to have style and grace with you, and Spider-Man certainly has that with him. While information on the game's mechanics and presence within the Marvel Universe is still unknown at the moment, the fluidity and power that looks to be shown here is more than enough to have any webhead like myself hyped up. Nintendo's press conference may have been focusing in on 2 games, but let's be honest here, we really only came for one of them. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has been in development for a long time now, and I think we can see why. For some of us, Zelda is a series that has changed over the years, but has found a bit of a repetitive cycle in some areas, and one way Nintendo hopes to break this is by allowing full exploration to the player. And from what was shown, Breath of the Wild really seems to keep that promise. So much so that if it wasn't for little things like the characters, combat and some other bits here and there, you could almost retitle this game as something else. While additions like climbing and manual jumping allow the player full range to explore even the highest points found within the game's world, customization now allows you to pick out which weapons and clothing you feel are best suited to each fight. The way the world is designed and the choice of music keeps reminding me of Studio Ghibli most of the time. How everything will come together and what will be the general conception amongst players is beyond hard to tell at this point. We'll just have to see for ourselves. Whenever that is. One of the games that seemed to be driving a lot of buzz from last year's E3 was Ubisoft's new IP, For Honor. It looked to be both an epic simulation of 3 historical cultural fighting styles, while also dropping the player into an open battleground filled with other players and bots. The game seemed to come with a real seriousness to it, with its realistic weapon physics as well as having the player switch between stances while in battle. And while it seemed like the game was only going to focus on multiplayer, this year it was revealed to us that in fact the game would contain a story within it chronicling the world after a great disaster, leading to these 3 mighty civilizations fighting for survival. From the looks of things, it seems that the story is going to have us jumping between each of the factions in their war with each other, as well as the forces that seek to manipulate them. Everything seems to have a very what-if scenario to it, like someone playing around with a giant set of figurines. There seems to be a lot coming from this new IP, and I can't wait to play it for myself. You know what I love? I love it when a franchise that I'm a little bit sour on starts to redeem itself in my eyes. There had been many speculations over the past years as to what would be Sony Santa Monica's next game and whether the God of War series would be part of it. Would Kratos be back? Would he be moving to another mythology? Or for that matter, would the franchise be back at all? But once the Sony press conference started, we were all given a good enough idea as to where things were headed. As Kratos stood out from the shadows, picked up that axe and walked out into the snowy woods, I got hyped up big time. My mind raced with all the Norse monsters to fight, all the legends to be interpreted like Midgard, the Rainbow Bridge, Asgard, or even gods like Thor and Odin. What's more is that it seemed to be focusing on a big complaint many of us have been having with Kratos as of late, that being his lack of personality besides his usual
I am angry and I care only for vengeance and occasional sex.
With the inclusion of what looks to be a new family for him, we now have something more to fight for, making me even more engaged this time around. This is still likely a ways off, but I'll wait patiently until then for the return of the God of War.
A new beginning.
But there you have it, folks. Were there any games at this E3 that had you impressed? Let us know down in the comment sections below. And hey, don't forget you can subscribe for even more Hot Cross goodness and by checking us out on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks again, guys, and hey, be seeing you around.